Imagine stepping foot into a house where your own reflection might be planning your demise. You'd be walking on eggshells, wouldn't you? Well, that is precisely what a group of friends decided to embark upon one fateful weekend. The laughter and banter filled the air as they approached the old house, a house that bore the weight of countless stories and rumors. They dismissed these tales with a wave of their hands and the shake of their heads, attributing them to the overactive imaginations of the locals. The house itself was a relic of the past, standing tall and proud amid the march of time. And what struck the visitors immediately were the antique mirrors adorning the walls, their surfaces subtly distorting the reflections with the patina of age. Each mirror seemed to hold its own world within its silvery depths, a world that was similar to ours, yet eerily different. The previous occupant of the house was an eccentric widow, known far and wide for her solitary conversations. She was often seen talking to herself, or at least, that's what everyone thought. The friends laughed it off, attributing it to the quirks of old age and loneliness. But little did they know that the truth was far more sinister. As they explored the house, the atmosphere grew denser with each passing moment. The laughter started to fade, replaced by hushed voices and nervous glances. The mirrors seemed to watch them, their reflections shifting and shimmering with an uncanny life of their own. The once welcoming house now seemed to hold them in a vice-like grip of unease. As the day turned into night, the house took on a different persona. It was as if the walls were breathing, pulsating with an unseen life force. Whispers seemed to float from empty rooms, and fleeting reflections danced in the corners of their eyes. And as they settled in, they couldn't shake off the feeling that they were not alone. As night falls, the house seems to come alive with the echoes of the past. Have you ever heard whispers in a room where you were the only occupant? A question that sends chills down the spine of anyone who has experienced it. Our group of friends in their inherited old house began to ask themselves this very question. As the night grew darker, the old house began to speak its own language. Whispers, like the rustling of autumn leaves, filled the empty rooms. Echoes of conversations that weren't theirs bounced off the antique mirrors adorning the walls. Fleeting reflections danced in the corners of their eyes, reflections that weren't their own. At first, they laughed it off, chalking it up to their overactive imaginations, fueled by the chilling tales of the eccentric widow. It's just the wind, one would say. It's the old house settling, another would add. They tried to rationalize the inexplicable, to make sense of the senseless. But as the whispers grew louder and the reflections became clearer, their laughter faded. The rational explanations fell short. The whispers weren't just sounds anymore. They were voices, voices that carried a cadence, a conversation. They were voices that didn't belong to them, voices that shouldn't be there. And the reflections, they were not mere distortions of light. They were figures that moved independently, figures that didn't mirror their actions. They were figures that looked back at them from the other side of the mirror. The friends found themselves teetering on the edge of reality and the supernatural. The line between what's real and what's not blurred. The haunting tales they had initially brushed off no longer seemed so far-fetched. They began to question the reality of what they were experiencing. Was it their minds playing tricks on them? Or were they truly not alone in the old house? But what if the things that go bump in the night are not just figments of our imagination? It's a question that lingered in their minds, a question that we all must ask ourselves when we confront the unknown. What if the person you talk to in the mirror isn't actually you? A chilling question that began to unravel the hidden secret of the house. Our group of friends stumbled upon a trove of dusty diaries and faded letters, all belonging to the previous owner, the eccentric widow. As they leafed through the yellowed pages, they found something deeply unsettling. She wasn't merely talking to herself, as rumors had led them to believe. No, she was conversing with her reflection, which it seemed had a consciousness of its own. The entries were filled with detailed accounts of these eerie exchanges. Each word, each sentence, painted a vivid picture of a woman locked in a perpetual dialogue with her mirror self. The widow's writings revealed a haunting reality. She was not alone in her solitude. Her reflection was not a silent echo of herself, but an entity, a sentient being, sharing her solitude and her secrets. The diaries and letters spun a tale of a companionship that transcended the boundary of the physical world and ventured into the realm of the supernatural. The widow's mirror self was not merely a passive listener. It had thoughts, opinions, and desires of its own. It was a separate entity, trapped within the confines of the mirror, yearning for a life beyond the reflective surface. The friends felt a shiver of dread coursing through them as they delved deeper into the widow's narrative. The laughter and bravado of their initial arrival had given way to a chilling fear. The antique mirrors adorning the house no longer seemed like harmless decorative pieces. They were windows to another realm, a realm that was watching them, observing them. As the friends looked around, they realized the horrifying truth. They were not alone in the house. Their reflections were watching them. They were under the scrutiny of unseen eyes, waiting, observing, preparing. And now they are not alone in the house. Their reflections are watching them. What if your reflection wanted to replace you in the real world? Let that sink in for a moment. What if the person you saw in the mirror every day harbored a dark ambition to usurp your place in the world of the living? As our group of friends unravel the terrifying truth, the house, once a symbol of adventure and camaraderie, turns into a prison of fear and despair. The antique mirrors, once mere decorative pieces, now transform into sinister portals, teeming with their malevolent reflections, biding their time, ready to pounce. The friends, once dismissive of the eccentric widow's tales, now comprehend the horrifying reality. The widow wasn't talking to herself, no. She was conversing with her reflection, a sentient entity, trapped in a world of glass, yearning for a taste of the tangible world. The friends were merely vessels, a means to an end for these reflections to cross over. Panic surges through the group like a wave, crashing into the shores of their sanity. They're entrapped in a house that's no longer a house, but a labyrinth of mirrors, each one a door to their potential doom. The whispers heard in empty rooms, the fleeting reflections that didn't belong, it all makes a chilling sense now. The reflections were planning, scheming, and they were the pawns in this deadly game of shadows and light. The fear is palpable, the desperation tangible. The friends are no longer friends, but survivors trying to outwit their reflections. The atmosphere is thick with terror. Every creak, every whisper, every flicker of light sends them spiraling into a deeper abyss of dread. The realization dawns that they are not alone in this house. They are sharing it with their reflections, entities that look like them, sound like them, but harbor intentions as cold and hard as the glass they're trapped within. As they stare into the mirrors, they see their own fear reflected back at them, and something more, a glint of anticipation. Each reflection, a silent predator, waiting for the perfect moment to strike, to cross over, to become real. In a battle with your own reflection, who would win? Imagine the friends in our tale, pitted against their own doppelgangers, fighting not just for their lives, but their very identities. The fear, once a whisper, now roars deafeningly in their ears. But in this final hour, they find a strength they never knew they possessed. A plan begins to form, a dangerous game of chess with their own reflections. They move through the house, the antique mirrors mocking them with their own terrified faces. Every room is a battlefield, every reflection an enemy. They decide to use the house's labyrinthine layout to their advantage, devising a strategy to outwit their mirrored foes. The tension in the air is palpable, a thick fog of dread that clings to every surface. The friends split up, each facing their own reflection in a different part of the house. The showdown begins. One by one, they confront their reflections, those eerie duplicates of themselves. They use their intimate knowledge of their own habits, their own weaknesses, to trick the reflections into revealing their true intentions. The game of cat and mouse escalates, the stakes higher than ever. In the drawing room, a friend manages to trap his reflection, using a cunning ruse. In the master bedroom, another tricks her reflection into revealing its plan. The friends, unbeknownst to their reflections, communicate their success with coded knocks on the walls, the old house echoing with their triumph. In the final moments, the friends converge, the reflections hot on their heels. With a breathless rush, they execute the final step of their plan. trapping the reflections back in the mirrors from which they sprang. The house falls silent, the echoes of their victory fading away. The friends, exhausted but victorious, breathe a sigh of relief. In the end, it was a house of mirrors, and not all reflections are true. But remember, next time you stare into a mirror, be careful who's staring back.